Aloha and good morning, everyone. It is 9:02 a.m. on Wednesday, November 15, 2023, and I call the Committee on Public Safety meeting to order. I'd like to welcome Council Members Dos Santos Tam and Council Member Tupola, and thank you to our committee. We'd like to excuse Vice Chair Tolba today. Procedural announcements. Pursuant to Section 92-3.7 Hawaii Revised Statutes, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda in the following order: in person in the council chamber and remotely. In person and remote oral testimony will be allowed when each agenda item is taken up. Before testifying, each person shall state their name for the record. Each speaker will be limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. All persons who have registered to testify in person will be called upon first. When your name is called, please proceed to the podium. When the timer goes off, please conclude your remarks promptly. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to testify following the registered testifiers. I will then proceed to remote testimony via video conference or phone. When your name is called, please monitor your screen and activate your audio feed when prompted. For those who are joining us by telephone only, I will identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. When your number is called, please listen for the prompt to unmute and press *6. For persons who have not registered to testify remotely, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom or press *9 on your telephone and indicate your desire to speak. Some friendly reminders and tips: video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you are also watching the proceedings on Olelo, please mute your television at the time you are called to testify. When the timer on screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks promptly. HRS Section 92-3.7 requires that all votes at remote meetings be conducted by roll call unless unanimous. Therefore, I will first call for objections, and if there are any, I will call for a roll call vote. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please turn off all cell phones for the duration of this meeting. Mahalo. Item number 1, Resolution 23-237, authorizing the use of overt video monitoring in the city to prevent and deter general criminal activity and achieve the legitimate law enforcement objective and legitimate public purpose of ensuring a safe and secure 51st Annual Honolulu Marathon on December 10, 2023. Members, please note that we distributed a hand-carried proposed CD1 to the resolution OCS 2023-1036/11/14/2023, 9:48 a.m., which makes the following amendments. A, in the second "be it further resolved" clause, amends the date by which the Department of Emergency Management shall report to the Council from January 15, 2023 to January 15, 2024. And B, makes miscellaneous technical and non-substantive amendments. Let's see, with us, aloha. With us we have from the Department of Emergency Management, our Director, Hiro Toya. Aloha, Director Toya. And also we have Major Stephen Gerona with us.
We have Lieutenant Procknell from the Major Events Division joining us.
Okay, thank you, Director Toya.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, Committee Chair and Council members. Hiro Toya, Director for the Department of Emergency Management. And thank you for the amendments and apologies for error on our part, the typographical error on the date there. So the Honolulu Marathon is such a special event here, and it's the marathon is a test of the human body and the spirit. And what really makes the Honolulu Marathon special is the fact that there is no cutoff time in which the participants have to be off the course. So it's one of few such events in the world like that. And I think it really speaks to how we welcome participants as they are and allow them to complete this feat of the human body. So really our priority is to have that event safely. So since 2013, we have been asking the council to authorize the use of the city's traffic camera system for law enforcement purposes. So the ordinance puts limitations on where these cameras can be used for law enforcement purposes. Normally they're just for traffic monitoring, but we're asking for authorization of the use of the cameras to allow for law enforcement operations to ensure that we can have a safe event. So as I mentioned earlier, we do have Lieutenant Kendall Procknell from the Honolulu Police Department if you have any law enforcement related questions.
Aloha, Lieutenant. Would you like to come to the podium? Mahalo, Director Toya.
Yeah, as Director Toya mentioned, good morning. We do try to ensure a safe marathon, so I'm just here to answer any questions regarding the operations of the security aspect of the marathon, if anybody has any.
Lieutenant, if you don't mind, could you just for the record state your name?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Lieutenant Kendall Prochnow. For the past few years, I've been the Operations Section Chief for the marathon.
Thank you, Lieutenant. I'd like to welcome Floor Leader Cordero. Thank you for joining us today. Members, any questions for Director Toya or Lieutenant from HPD? Seeing none? Okay. Thank you, mahalo.
Thank you.
We will now proceed with in-person testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any registered or non-registered persons for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Clerks, do we have any registered or non-registered remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, no registered remote, but I see Angela Young with her hand up.
Oh, aloha, Angela. Good morning.
Aloha, Chair and the City Council. Angela Melody Young, testifying in strong support on behalf of Kapalama NSW. And so the Honolulu Marathon is the 4th largest marathon in the United States, taking place each December. There is no time limit for people to experience the aloha spirit. And I do believe that this is the second proposal that we've heard about the overt camera monitoring. There was one previously, I think last year. And yeah, so if it was successful, then we are for it. And yeah.
Mahalo, Angela. Clerks, do we have any other remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Members, we are in discussion. Okay, thank you. I'd like to thank, again, Director Toya and HPD for being here. I've never been a part of the marathon. I'm not strong enough to run it, but I'm glad that we can do all that we can to keep our participants safe. So the chair recommends that Resolution 23-237 be amended to the hand-carried proposed CD1 OCS 2023-1036. Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, the resolution is amended to CD1. The chair then recommends that Resolution 23-237 CD1 be reported out for adoption. Any objections, reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Item number 2, Resolution 23-274, accepting a monetary gift of $35,000 to the city from the Waikiki Transportation Management Association for the Honolulu Police Department's District 6 to use to enhance police patrols in order to address illegal activities in Waikiki, including parking violations on the public streets. Members, please note that we posted on the agenda a proposed CD1 to this resolution, OCS 2023-1031/11/9/2023, 1:44 p.m., and a summary of the amendments was also listed on the agenda. I believe with us today, we have Major Randall Platt from the Honolulu Police Department. Good morning, Major Platt. Thank you for being here. Major, if you could, push, thank you.
Morning, Chair Okimoto, council members. Major Platt from the Honolulu Police Department, Commander of District 6, Waikiki. Here to answer any questions on the Resolution 23-274. Thank you for the amendments to the bill. We encourage the committee's adoption of the monies for traffic and parking enforcement in Waikiki.
Thank you, Major Platt. Members, are there any questions for the Major? Yes, Councilmember Tupola.
Aloha, Major Platt. Thanks for being here. Question in regards to the $35,000. What exactly or how will it help? I just want to know kind of what the impact of $35,000 equals and how you're able to use it.
So basically, it's for special projects that officers run geared toward parking enforcement in Waikiki. There are particular corridors that are impacted with just traffic congestion, in particular, Lures, Street, Seaside, where there's parking permits for loading and unloading, but we have found, or WTMA has found, that people are not purchasing the permits and just parking there illegally. And so part of it is to encourage people to get the permit so that they can park legally and to alleviate the congestion that's in Waikiki.
Thank you for the geographic specification. I guess my question is this used for overtime or is it used for salary monies, or how do you use it?
Overtime
Okay.
projects, yes.
And then for overtime, how much hours does this equal, this amount? I'm just trying to hypothetical, if I got this much amount donated to my district, like what would that equal? You know,
Yeah.
20 hours of overtime, like what does it do?
More than 20 hours.
More than
It's
20?
a substantial amount, yeah. I'd have to actually do the math to calculate it out, but yeah.
So this project could last like a couple weeks then and help you guys do that enforcement?
Yes, yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Tupola. Yes, Floor Leader Cordero.
If no other committee members have questions, I'd like to have a question.
I think you're good. Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
Hi, Major Platt. Thank you for being here. My question is relating to the Waikiki improvement areas and corridors, which I know a lot of the parking will be HPD will be enforcing on. And I know that since Waikiki has an improvement district, and I know that the businesses to be in the improvement district or association have to pay into it. And some of those fees do go to, I think, maybe enforcement, but also other types of things like street use permits and whatnot. So I was wondering if some of those Waikiki Improvement Association fees and funds go to such things like overtime, because I thought maybe before, maybe a few years back, that did occur.
Yeah, so WBID, the Waikiki Business Improvement District Association, puts out or sponsors a separate funding for that. And so we use those monies for similarly for projects, but those are geared toward quality of life type issues, so peddling, noise violations, littering, those types of things. Whereas the WTMA, which is the Waikiki Transportation Management Association, they focus on parking and traffic issues specifically. So they're kind of separate.
Okay, so to be clear, there's the Waikiki Waikiki Business Improvement District, and then their fees go to, like you said, quality of life. And then for the Waikiki Traffic Management, I'm sorry, I don't know what it's called. Do businesses pay in fees for that, and does that help pay for HPD overtime too?
Yeah, so that I'm going to refer you to Rick Egged, who's the president of WTMA,
Okay.
as far as exactly how those monies, how they collect those monies.
Okay. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Cordero. Members, any other questions for Major Platt? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Major Platt.
Thank you, ma'am.
We will now proceed with in-person testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any registered in-person speakers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Any non-registered testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Clerks, do we have any registered remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, no registered, but I see Angela Young with her hand up.
Aloha and good morning, Angela.
Aloha, Angela. Melody Young, testifying on behalf of Kapalama NSW in strong support. The District 6 community policing team is very active, and just want to show support. So they actually did a collaboration with like Humane Society, because they usually do keiki and kapuna IDs, but then this time they did like pet IDs, which I think was a very good initiative to kind of go out in the community and to collaborate with the various organizations. So in strong support.
Mahalo, Angela. Clerks, do we have any other remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Members, we are in discussion. Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you so much, Chair. I had filed a disclosure of interest statement, and it can be found in Council Communication 289. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Tupola. Any other discussion? Seeing none, the chair recommends that Resolution 23-274 be amended to the posted proposed CD1 OCS 2023-1031. Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, the resolution is amended to CD1. The chair then recommends that Resolution 23-274 CD1 be reported out for adoption. Any objections, reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Item number 3, Resolution 23-275, accepting a gift to the city of 20 ultralight sleeping bags valued at $1,799 from ULOHA, ULOHA, for the use of by the Honolulu Fire Department to assist in the response to the August 2023 West Maui wildfires. And with us, I believe we have Battalion Chief Michael Jones. Good morning, Battalion Chief.
Good morning, Chair and Council members. Mike Jones, Battalion Chief, Honolulu Fire Department, currently assigned to our Administrative Services Bureau. The Honolulu Fire Department, under the leadership of Chief Hao and Deputy Chief Samala, were honored to be able to offer support to Maui following the Maui wildfires in August. We worked with various city, state, and federal partners, as well as the private sector, to be able to help Maui in their time of need. This reso, along with the two resos that follow it, are basically acceptance of gifts from community members to help us in supporting Maui. I stand ready to answer any questions.
Mahalo, Battalion Chief Jones. Members, are there any questions for the Battalion Chief? I just had a quick question. So we've asked this before. This is kind of not a reimbursement, but this is products that were received while the department was there helping the fire recovery on Maui.
Correct. Due to the timeliness of the emergency, obviously we had to get our personnel and equipment up there as expeditiously as possible. The fire chief and the deputy chief actually reached out to the Maui deputy chief the next morning, and within 24 hours we had personnel mobilizing and on the ground in Maui to help them out. So these gifts were accepted during the course of that response, and we're following up at this time.
Thank you. And were these sleeping bags, were they left there for residents, or was it left for the department? Is it left within the Maui department, or does it come back here to our county?
To be honest with you, I'm not sure of the current disposition of them. At the time, it was because we sent up a contingent of firefighters to help with staffing of apparatus, and we weren't clear on where they were going to be housed overnight. So we were trying to get equipment up there just to take care of our personnel. But I can find out and get back to you as far as where they're at this time.
Okay. And just to clarify, we are no longer sending anyone from our Honolulu Fire Department over to Maui at this time, or are we still sending
I believe at this
over?
time we've brought all of our personnel back.
Okay. Thank you, Major Jones. I'm sorry, Battalion Chief Jones. We'll now proceed with in-person testimony in the council chamber. Thank you. Clerks, do we have any registered or non-registered testifiers for this item? In person.
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Do we have any registered or non-registered remote speakers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Members, we are in discussion. Great. The chair recommends that Resolution 23-275 be reported out for adoption. Any objections? Any reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Item number 4, Resolution 23-276, accepting a gift to the city of in-kind air freight shipping valued at $2,323.26 from Aloha Air Cargo to transport equipment of the Honolulu Fire Department to Maui to assist in the response to the August 2023 West Maui wildfires. And once again, we'd like to welcome Battalion Chief Michael Jones from the Honolulu Fire Department.
Again, good morning, Chair and council members. Stand ready for any questions if there are any for this gift reso.
Mahalo, Chief Jones. Are there any questions for the Battalion Chief? I had a couple, if that's okay. What kind of equipment needed to be shipped over using this air cargo during the time of the Maui wildfire recovery?
So there were actually several different shipments that occurred. Initially, we shipped up fire hose. Obviously, with the events that occurred and how it impacted the Maui Fire Department, they lost a lot of fire hose, which impacted their ability to fight fire. So we sent up whatever additional fire hose we could to support them, as well as our personnel that went up brought all of their personal protective equipment, so their firefighting gear. Because we were, again, unclear of exactly what we were going to do to support Maui, we sent them with everything that they had. So all of their firefighting complement, that went up with our personnel, and when they returned, all of that equipment had to come back to Oahu.
Thank you, Chief Jones. Okay. Seeing no other questions, we'll now proceed with in-person testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any registered or non-registered speakers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Do we have any registered or non-registered remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Members, we are in discussion. Seeing no further discussion, the chair recommends that Resolution 23-276 be reported out for adoption. Any objections, reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Item number 5, Resolution 23-277, accepting a gift to the City of Ocean Freight Transportation valued at $1,992 from Matson Navigation Company to transport 3 F-250 vehicles of the Honolulu Fire Department to and from Maui to assist in the response to the August 2023 West Maui wildfires. We'd like to welcome once again Battalion Chief Michael Jones from the Honolulu Fire Department.
Good morning again, Chair and council members. This gift was specific to bring some of our smaller auxiliary vehicles to Maui to transport our personnel from whatever work site they were needed at. We sent vehicles up on multiple trips to transport our initial contingent of personnel, as well as to support our incident management team that was working with DEM on Maui to respond to the incident. Stand ready for any questions.
Mahalo, Chief Jones. Members, are there any questions? I have a quick question. For the past couple of months, we've had the department come and receive, and we've had to accept gifts. Does the department anticipate any further gifts that need to be accepted and received officially through this hearing and through the department?
I am not aware of whether or not we have any more pending at this time. I'm sorry.
No problem. Thank you, Chief Jones. Okay, we'll now proceed with in-person testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any registered or non-registered testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Do we have any registered or non-registered remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you, Clerk. Madam Clerk, members, we are in discussion. Seeing no further discussion, the chair recommends that Resolution 23-277 be reported out for adoption. Any objections, reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. We'd like to now turn the time over to our informational briefing. Members, the last item on the agenda today is an update by the Honolulu Fire Department on their aviation program and in response to the recent wildfires on Oahu. And with us today, we have from the Fire Department, Assistant Chief Joseph Costija, Battalion Chief Lance Ray Gaspar, and Battalion Chief Robert Thurston. I'd like to welcome them to the front. And before I turn the time over to Chief Costilla, I did ask the department to come. The wildfires, was something that kind of engulfed my District 8, but I had a lot of emails come to the office, phone calls, and so I thought this was a great opportunity for us as a council to hear straight from the source the department's response and their strategy, as well as the logistics and the resources that they use. So we'll welcome you guys today and gladly turn the time over to Chief Costilla.
Good morning, committee chair and council members. My name is Joseph Costija, Assistant Chief, Fire Operations Division of the Honolulu Fire Department. Thanks for having us today. I'm just here to introduce the experts that were on scene at the fire, but today we're going to be covering, we're going to give you the council an update on the Mililani Mako fire. We will have maps or visuals. I believe you all have handouts. We're also going to explain what our plan was in addressing the fire. Also going to explain our air program and our assets. Our capabilities and how our air program helps the community. We're going to also talk about air quality monitoring during the fire, and then any other items you want to bring up with us today. So I'm just going to introduce the experts that were there. So Chief Gaspar was the IC on day 2 of the fire, and he was the IC for the majority of the incident. And then we also have Chief Thurston, who was basically the air boss or the overhead for the aircraft operation at the wildfire. So just between the two of them, they have over 50 years of experience in the department. So we were confident that they were doing what was urgent and what was best for the community, and they had all those things in mind while they were operating. So I'll bring up Chief Gaspar first, and I'll start I'll share the PowerPoint.
Mahalo, Chief Costilla. Aloha, Chief Gaspar.
Good morning, Chair, council members. Lance Ray Gaspar, Battalion Chief for Honolulu Fire Department. I'll let Chief Joe get the PowerPoint going for us. Okay, so basically the fire started on October 30th, approximately 6 a.m. in the morning. It came in as a brush fire. We had a little bit of difficulty in the beginning pinpointing where the fire was. There was reports that it was in the cemetery, and in Malka, and so basically our aerial assessment that morning, it determined that it was above Mililani Malka. So Chief Joe is showing a map of the island, and basically the area the fire was in, it started in HFD's primary jurisdiction, but later on migrated to forestry and wildlife jurisdiction. So the map that he's showing is color-coded to the different zones and areas of responsibility or jurisdiction. We can go forward from there, Chief. That's an overhead view of where the fire started and the progression and direction of it going Malka. So to the left, that community there is the top of Mililani Malka. And above the residential area, there's actually a lychee farm in that area. So the fire started approximately a mile from the top of Malka. And with the wind pattern that day, which we had southerly winds or Kona winds, it kind of progressed towards the east side to the right of your screen. The start of it, where the yellow arrow is pointing, is in our jurisdiction, and eventually you'll see subsequent maps that'll show that it actually progressed into the fish and wildlife jurisdiction. This is just an aerial shot of what we had to face every day, pretty much. This was taken November 1st by our HFD drone team, which did a fire watch every night to ensure that the fire didn't turn back on us. But this shows the landscape. This is early in the morning. So as you can see, when the atmosphere is cooler, the smoke kind of lays low, and that's why you had so much fire in Mililani during that time. Chief, you can go back. So going back to the photo, the most aggressive part, that high smoke, was on the east side of the fire, headed towards the coalhouse. Okay, so that's what I was talking about, the areas of jurisdiction. So it started in our area, and then eventually it went into the pink, which is fish and wildlife. The green to the north is the Army's jurisdiction, that's East Range. So that was a concern for not only us, but for the military as well. This is just another overhead view. To the north, you can see the Army, and to the east, you can see the wildlife refuge area. This map shows also some of the topography. We'll show you a little bit more later. But from where the fire started and where it progressed, it was really somewhere we wouldn't want to put ground troops initially because of the dangers and the steepness of the hills and cliffs. So this map just shows the topography of it. Another map showing the red outline is the actual fire area. The green is, again, Fish and Wildlife's jurisdiction. And you can see the progression of where the entire perimeter of the fire, what it looks like from above. This is some photos that we took from the air and some of our initial ground crews that went in, and we took some photos. So basically, that forestry and wildlife area, it's really green. That's why you have a lot of smoke. But if you can see, the terrain is super steep in those areas. So the primary strategy for us to keep not only our guys safe, but to be effective, was to do aerial water drops. And that was our primary strategy going into the fire. Later on, we progressed. We tried to identify where our ground crews can make some effective mitigation efforts. And as the incident went on, we kind of incorporated ground crews later. Another photo of, this is a little later. This is when the fire was pretty much contained. But if you look at the picture, you can see the topography and how steep those cliffs are. So ground crews, accessibility for ground crews and safety for our guys was paramount throughout the incident. Again, this is, I believe this is on November 12th. So this is later when the most of the fire was contained. So what this shows is there's still a little bit of smoldering spots. If you look at those red dots, that'll identify the pockets where we still see some residual fire. But what we should note is that the purple perimeter is the fire, and all those little red spots are primarily in the burned out areas. So there's no concern for reignition or burn. Throughout the incident, I believe our PIO team has released multiple press releases throughout the day. And also at the end of every day, I believe that they provided press releases or press conferences with the fire chief. So this is just to show that we kind of got our information out. We also have some other avenues to get out the information. H&L Info, we have a QR code that we use for our department that provides information regarding what we did at the fire. Again, at the end of every day, Chief Howell conducted press conferences. Throughout the event or the incident, there was concern of air quality. Basically, our hazmat unit reached out to the Clean Air Branch of Department of Health, and they have monitoring sites around the island. So basically, their infrastructure and system was in place. So basically, we used that to monitor the air quality. So basically, in Mililani, there's two areas. One is at Mililani Ike, and the other one was at Mililani Uka Elementary School. That was good for us because it determined the closest point to the fire and also pretty much the farthest point from the fire to monitor air quality. Throughout the fire, like I said, it was kind of favorable for us to have southerly winds because the fire actually progressed toward the east and not back towards Mililani Mauka. So in the meantime, working with our city, state, and federal partners, we came up with contingency plans for evacuation. Basically, this map will show the blue area is where the fire is at, and we created some landmark triggers to activate an evacuation plan. So coordination with Department of Emergency Management, I think they also was in contact with HAIMA to coordinate agency efforts to get the evacuation plan initiated if we had to. So that's the fire in the blue. Basically what happened was we split Mililani Mauka up into two areas for kind of orderly evacuation. There's one way in, one way out of Mililani Mauka. So if we had everybody going out one time, it would be pretty chaotic. So basically we split Mililani Mauka up in half, and then we use trigger points so the first yellow that you see, if the fire was to creep up to that point, we would evacuate the top half, which is the other yellow portion of Mililani Mauka. If the fire progressed more towards where the Lychee farm is, then we would evacuate the lower half. And we had some coordination through our EOC and Department of Emergency Management to kind of get all the agency stakeholders involved so that we could get this thing, if needed to, off the ground. Okay. Any questions? So basically, we, as of November 8th, because it was primary, oh.
At 9:44, I call the Committee to on Public Safety back in order. Thank you. So we, mahalo to those of you who have been working on our technical difficulties. We're going to table our questions for the very end, if that's okay. We'll have the department finish up their presentation, and I think at the end, that'll be more clear on which questions will still be left unanswered. So aloha, Battalion Chief Thurston.
Aloha, Chair Okimoto and members of the committee. My name is Robert Thurston. I'm Battalion Chief and Aviation Program Manager. I had Chief Costilla go back to this slide because I just wanted to recap a little bit for you folks. Chief Howell, myself, and the executive chiefs were watching streaming. Our UAS program did a fire watch over the program every night, over the fire every night. So we had eyes on the fire 24/7, and the strategy was determined by what we found from our UAS footage. We had thermal imaging, which showed us the fire's progression and what was still hot. So from the map you see there, the strategy from the beginning was always to contain the east side because that was closest to property. We then shifted the aerial assets further eastward because of the conservation efforts on the east side of the fire. You can see below the red area towards the south, there was a day towards the middle of the fire that we needed to shift to contain that section, and then we shifted the aerial assets back towards the east. The Army primarily was focusing on the north side of the fire, which was closest to the East Range and their property. So there was a coordinated effort, there was a calculated strategy each and every morning that was communicated to the pilots and to all the aviation assets. So just so you know that was the strategy from the beginning. So thank you, Chief. If we can go to the aviation section. So some of the air assets that we had on station was our HFD helicopters, our pilots. Because the duration of the incident, most of our pilots flew and conducted aerial drops at this fire. One of our pilot trainees was conducting bucket drops. He was recently qualified to conduct those bucket drops, so he was there. Our fuel tender was there. Our fuel tender remained on station for the duration of the incident to provide fuel so that the aviation assets could remain on station and provide uninterrupted service at the fire. And again, our unmanned aerial aircraft system, those folks maintained fire watch every night of the incident. And again, we determined strategy for the following day based on what we found from the UAS footage. Again, Chief Howell and myself and the executive chiefs were streaming that overnight. So sometimes up all night, but definitely first thing in the morning, we were getting eyes on the fire to determine the strategy for the day from the air. And thankfully, I have to thank the U.S. Army. They provided vital assistance to us. They provided Chinooks along with Black Hawk helicopters. The water gallon capacity for the Chinook, which is a CH-47 model aircraft, is 2,000 gallons. So they really assisted in the containment of the fire. We cannot thank them enough for their participation. And then they also provided Blackhawks, which carry 660 gallons in their water buckets. Again, vital and key to us being able to contain the fire. The state of Hawaii does not have a standalone aviation program at present. They contract that service out. It was contracted to a combination of, I believe, Windward and Paradise helicopters. Their helicopters are similar models to ours, which carry 100 gallons in their water buckets. So you can see the limitations of our buckets versus our Army partners and National Guard partners. And this is a summary of the agencies involved. And again, we thank them all for their assistance. The Hawaii Air National Guard was critical to us being able to contain the fire as well. And the mayor's team, we had assistance from the Honolulu Police Department, Heroes Gang at Department of Emergency Management, State DOT, Clean Air Branch from the Department of Health, the Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization, and the University of Hawaii, and I'm going to butcher that name, so I'm going to stay away from it, but they provided vital assistance as far as the ground cover and the foliage in the area and possible strategy and tactics for us as well. So we thank all of them for their assistance. And that's a recap of the fire from the aviation side. And I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Actually, Chief Thurston, I think if we can go through your next presentation as well, and we'll take questions at the very
sure.
end, because I know some of the questions, or these are connected or related to each other, if that's
Sure.
okay.
So,
How do I get to the flash drive?
you gotta go. So I'd like to start first by saying thank you to the council, thank you to the mayor's administration, previous councils, previous fire chiefs, and all the men and women who've served in the Honolulu Fire Department before me. They built the aviation program to what it is today. They contribute to where we're at today, and we thank you for your ongoing support of our program. The people, the citizens and visitors of this county are fortunate. Honolulu is the only county which has a standalone program where the city owns the aircraft, the pilots are fire department employees, and we have a contracted 24/7 maintenance contractor. So we are very fortunate to have those capabilities on the ready 24/7. So, and so this is an overview of our program, and I'll try to make it quick for your expediency. So this is the mission statement of the Honolulu Fire Department, and the aviation program provides effective emergency response to rescue and firefighting incidents. We also provide response to disaster incidents, reconnaissance missions, and other necessary government functions. This is our area of response, basically the entire island of Oahu and its territorial waters up to 3 miles offshore. This is some pictures of the history of the aircraft. Again, you know, thanks to the guys that have come along the way that were before us. They built an excellent program, and we're building on that. So this is a little history of the aircraft. Okay, Chief, thank you. And this is where we're at today. So we have 3 of MD 520 NOTARs. So the key characteristic of this aircraft is it doesn't have a tail rotor. So it allows us to fit into tighter areas for rescues and brush fires. Most of our helicopters were manufactured in the 1990s. They've been refurbished, but they are coming to the end of their service life. It's very costly, and it takes the aircraft out of service for a long duration for that refurbishment. And we feel the taxpayers' dollars are better used in investing in modern technology and modern aircraft with a broader scope of capabilities. These are single-engine aircraft, so God forbid we have an incident where we have a mechanical mishap, it's gonna probably not go well. They have a range of 242 miles, roughly 2-hour flight time. The problem with bucket drops and rescues is they require a lot of weight to be carried by the helicopter, so we offset that with fueling them light. So we don't fill them to their maximum capacity because we need the weight for the water and people. So the aircraft do have limitations. We cannot fly when winds are greater than 30 knots, and the gust spread is more than 15 knots. The aircraft are visual flight rules all the time. We can't fly by instruments because the aircraft, the avionics package, which is the instrumentation, does not allow for that. And the aircraft cannot fly into thunderstorms. And I know this question has come up a lot of times in the media and from members of the public. For night operations, we'll fly at night for rescues where we have a life safety issue or incident. Nighttime aerial firefighting, water bucket drops are not permitted. So the risk is just too high, and the reward is too low. Now, if there was immediate threat to property, I think the fire chief would reevaluate that. And later I'll show you we're in the process of procuring a twin-engine helicopter, which that subject may be revisited by the fire chief in the future. So this is a picture of our support vehicle. This is a fuel tender, which allows us to stay there. We don't have to return to the hangar for fuel. That round trip would be about an hour. So in that hour's time, we can lose ground with any fire. If we're on an extended search, we may lose the progress we've made on a search. So the tender allows us to stay on station uninterrupted. It carries 500 gallons of Jet A fuel, and it carries the logistical and support equipment necessary for our operations. We recently purchased this 280-gallon fuel trailer, which allows us to concurrently deploy fuel assets. So if we had 2 or more incidents in concurrence, we could deploy the fuel trailer, which would allow for uninterrupted service at 2 different incidents. So that's been a big add to our program. This particular asset was on the ready to be deployed if the folks in Maui requested our assistance. Fortunately, they did not. So our pilots, again, our pilots are HFD employees. We have 3 24-hour shifts, or 3 platoons, and the pilots, we have 2 pilots per platoon and 1 fuel tender operator per platoon. The pilots do have flight duty limitations, so I'll go straight to the 4th bullet point there. They can't fly more than 8 hours consecutively in a 24-hour shift. So at the Mililani brush fire, or the Mauka brush fire, a lot of our pilots were timing out. So what we ran into was we needed to bring in pilots to cover rescues for the overnight portion of the shift. So there was a lot of logistical moves along the way that supported the Maui, or the Mililani Mauka fire, I'm sorry. And some of that was staffing and pilot coverage for the overnight. And then some of that was bringing in our maintenance contractor early to inspect the aircraft that were in service daily. And that would provide us the opportunity to, again, provide uninterrupted service at the fire. These are some incident statistics for fiscal year 22-23, 552 rescue incidents and 25 fire incidents for that fiscal year. So, and that demand is increasing, as you are all well aware. So for our firefighting, we also provide aerial reconnaissance for access points for fire apparatus. We provide ground crews intelligence on where the best place to attack the fire is. Again, water containment, or water drops, fire containment. We also provide the means to insert personnel into the fire area in remote locations. The problem on day 1, day 2 of the Mauka brush fire was there were no escape routes, and the topography did not lend for us to keep the firefighters safe. So that's why on the early days, there was no insertion of our personnel. There was no escape routes for them. There was no safety mechanism or fallback safe area for them to retreat to. Wildland fires create weather of their own. They're unpredictable. So that was the nature of that incident. Our helicopters also transport equipment for search and rescue missions. Go ahead, Chief, thank you. We obviously provide rescue for missing and lost hikers. And I'll tell you, our rescue personnel are highly trained, highly specialized individuals. The combination of those folks working with our pilots, you know, I know you probably see it in the paper and see it on the news, and we rescue somebody from Diamond Head or Cocoa Head or whatever the incident may be. There's a lot of training and a lot of expertise that go into that. So kudos to our rescue and our pilots. We extract injured patients from the mountains, and we insert rescue personnel in their equipment. For ocean rescues, Obviously, we provide service for missing and disabled swimmers, surfers, boats in distress, and we coordinate very well with the Coast Guard. And so the future of the program. We have recently completed the initial phase of the procurement for a twin-engine helicopter. We continue to train new pilots who are HFD employees. And we have a fourth aircraft, which is the same Model 520, which is currently under refurbishment. The plan for the next 3 to 10 years is to acquire a second twin-engine rescue and firefighting aircraft and add necessary positions to staff that aircraft with 2 pilots. So just some of our partners, some state of Hawaii assets, and you can go, Chief, we're almost done, sorry for the time. The Honolulu Police Department, so our aviation program is a joint program with our police partners. They have 2 aircraft and they're Model MD-500. This is our National Guard partners with the Chinooks and the Blackhawks, and they also have Lakota aircraft. They primarily use the Blackhawk and the Chinook for the aerial firefighting. And then we put in the Coast Guard who assist us with rescues. And I think that concludes my presentation. Thank you for the time.
Mahalo, Chief Thurston. Members, at this time, we will turn it over to you for any questions for the fire department. I know earlier, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam had a question.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think this is a really important and very timely discussion. You know, in my district, right after the Maui wildfires, I asked HFD for statistics. We had 105 brush fires from 2018 to 2023 in town. And I can't imagine in a rural area, you know, what that would be like. And so anyway, my question has more to do with the after effects. So this area that's been burnt out, what happens next to it? Is there a plan to replant it? Does DLNR come in? You know, I'm just concerned with sort of the environmental impacts.
I'm not able to answer that question, but the fire, the incident was turned over to DOI, Department of the Interior, and the Fish and Wildlife Service. So I think they'd be more better suited to answer that. But I would imagine it would just natural things would happen, and they would regrow, replenish itself over time.
Thank you, Councilmember Tupola.
Aloha, gentlemen. Thank you for being here, and thanks for all the hard work. I know that it was never ending. In fact, every morning we woke up, could still smell it in Waianae when it was burning. The question I had, and it's nothing that I need anyone to go back and do, is I think timeline-wise, it would be good to include that in here. How many days, at what times you guys did what things, and I'm sure you guys have an internal report of that. The only reason I ask that is that this was a fairly long time to fight a fire, right? What are the costs for fighting fires for this many acreage over 14 days? I mean, the ones in Waianae last a long time too, but I think that would be good for us to know. Obviously, when we're doing the budget next year, those kind of things we have to take into consideration, that if the fire was 2 weeks and it cost us $2 million plus, what would it be, in kind from the Army, in kind from these people, like what does that equal? What do we foresee for the next upcoming year, and do we have enough resources?
So we can definitely go back during our after action report and review the incident information and definitely come up with a quantitative amount that we think it kind of costed. But I just want to say that without the help of the partner agencies like the DOI, especially the National Guard and the Army and the private contractors from DOFA, the fire, in my estimation, would have lasted well over a month. Without those heavy aircraft supporting or operating in the east portion and any portion that was endangering life and property or coming near it, the fire would have exponentially cost a lot more amount of money and man hours.
You know, and that's something to note. You know, I was in Schofield discussing Kole Kole with the Army and the Navy, but at the end of the day, they basically said, anything life and safety-wise, we will step up, we will contribute, we will give resources. And I think it's, one, important for us to acknowledge that we can't do it without their help. And then two, I guess, realize, because I know Chief Ha'o was sending DOT to do a lot of brush cutting down coverage. I mean, there's parts of the west side I'd never seen before because I had so much trees, and now we can see it. I want to see how that helped to deter numbers, you know, because he did quite a bit of work with DOT to get that done. From 2022, if we were able to actually see a decrease, and likewise, if that also decreased in the amount of funds that we had to use. So just kind of longitudinally, because we always have to allocate budget, I feel like that'd be important.
Okay, we'll definitely look at that, council member.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Tupola. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. This first question is for Battalion Chief Gaspar relating to the incident and what happens when it travels into different jurisdictions, because I know you mentioned it a few times that I went to forestry and wildlife. So what happens then, and what's the issues that occur when it does travel into different jurisdictions?
So basically, when it gets to a point where it's out of our jurisdiction, it takes a while for those agencies to stand up their resources, get the amount of resources in on the island, actually deploy them. So in the meantime, we're pretty much, our operations would be the primary emergency response to handle that thing. Eventually, when the resources come in and then they can start deploying their assets, we can start making that transition to have them take care of their jurisdiction pretty much. So that's how this incident played out. The stakeholders was involved early. I believe we already started to get some of the teams together on the first day because knowing what jurisdiction it was going to be in. But it takes time for those resources to come in. So the ordering and getting the assets in and then coming up with a plan to actually deploy them to the incident, it takes a while. But we are pretty much primarily the response going to be from the beginning, just because they don't have anything on ground yet.
Okay, and I was wondering, relating to when it does go into different jurisdictions, or if it's near any jurisdictions that may involve like federal fire, I was wondering how quickly you, I guess, coordinate with each other or inform the other that, hey, you know, there's this incident occurring. It may or may not, we're handling it, but how often, how quick do you tell federal fire?
So, yeah, we try to get everybody. If we see an incident that's progressing, we try to get as much agency, and it's a coordinated effort, right? Yeah. Our dispatch will call, you know, could be DOFA, could be Fed Fire. We usually get those resources on early. Mm-hmm. In this instance, because it was a big fire, we actually had the teams already start planning the incident as we went along. Like I said, it's challenging in the beginning, but once we kind of organize everybody and see where everybody stands and what responsibilities and roles they have, and it just progresses from there. And then we kind of establish a unified command where we have all the different agencies at the table working out strategy, tactics, and planning and that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I know that there's a slide, of course, you talked about air quality, and then I saw the slide regarding cloud cover. And I know the cloud cover, I guess, how do you determine each day the air quality, and does it go to DOH to then disseminate to the public, or does it come directly from the department? I kind of got confused.
So we provided avenues where the public could get that information, I believe, through the DOH website or...
Okay.
Or, yeah, Chief can talk about that.
Okay.
But as far as cloud cover, as you guys know, cloud cover towards the later part of the incident was providing some challenges for us because of our aerial operations and the safety of our pilots and the coordination with the other air assets. So that was a challenge later on in the week when the rain started to come. And thanks to Chief Thurston, that was a big task for him to manage those air assets, whether they could go up or just the flight patterns and all that stuff that he had to take into account to get some water on the fire.
Right, and I guess the reason I bring up like cloud coverage and even air quality, and you mentioned from, I guess, one point of, you measure, I guess, 2 places for air quality, yeah? And then I remember not just from Councilmember Tupola bringing up where you can smell it in YNI, but like in a different perimeter too. So, I mean, throughout the whole perimeter around Mauka. So with that, like, how do you know how far to, I guess, test the air quality if, people, residents in YNI and even EVA or Pro City and
Yeah,
other
so
areas can smell
basically,
it.
Department of Health Clean Air Branch, they have multiple meters and testing sites. So our main concern initially or throughout the duration, because Mililani Mauka and Mililani was the closest to the fire, that was our primary priority to make sure that those guys are safe. And I believe we put out some press releases on if you have difficulty breathing to contact 911 or shelter in place. All those information was released at that time. So basically, that's how we monitored it.
Okay, got it. Okay, I don't know if there's anything for air quality there, but I do have a question for Chief Thurston relating to the capacity. I know that in comparison, I mean, it was great help to get support from the military, especially with the Chinooks with 2,000 gallons, and then I forgot what else had the 660.
The Blackhawk.
Oh, Black.
Yeah, that's
okay.
a UH-60 model, 660 gallons.
Okay, got it. I know that there may not be always instances where, well, I don't know. Hopefully, there are instances where coordinated efforts to receive support, especially when we need that many gallons of water. But what's the biggest amount of capacity that we have for our aircrafts to carry water?
So our current fleet is limited to 100 gallons
100
in the
gallons.
bucket.
Okay.
The new aircraft that will be taking delivery, if all goes well, October, will have 280-gallon capacity.
Okay.
So we'll triple our current capacity with that.
Okay. And of course, there are events that are out of the ordinary, but during, I guess particularly summer months or other types of fires, are the 100 or even 280 capacity, does it suffice, or will we continue to need support from our military partners?
We're going to continue to need their support. We're limited, again, single-engine aircraft. We can only pull so much weight until we, and every day we operate with rescues and wildland firefighting, we're close to the limitations of the aircraft already.
Okay.
And then you take into factors that we can't control, which are the weather, the wind, and we're really at the edge of the operating capacity of the aircraft. So it's important. It's a great step that we started the procurement for the first helicopter, but we really need to look at the second one in order for us to modernize our fleet and bring us up to, and take the term for what it's worth, but industry standard. Most of the fire departments on the continent don't use single engine aircraft for wildland firefighting. The capacity is just too small.
Yeah. Okay, good to know. I guess still on that note, Chief Thurston, relating to capacity staffing wise, since you mentioned that folks were timing out. Timing out.
No problem.
Yeah. I guess how's the department looking to assist the different platoons so that there can be more pilots and operators?
So we currently have 2 trainees who are in the trainee phase of the program. It takes roughly a year depending on their aptitude and skills. Most of our guys are military National Guard pilots, so they come with us with a certain skill set and aptitude level, and then we train them specific to our aircraft and our mission scope. We have one, again, he was just cleared for bucket drops before this Mauka fire, so which was, the timing was impeccable.
Right.
But he's progressing through, so he'll enter the rescue and the life, what we call human external cargo, which is we're picking up people, not water anymore. And we expect him to progress through that pretty well. So that training program takes about a year to complete. The other trainee, I think he's 3 months into his training, so he's going to be a while. The other good thing is the current core pilot group, there's only one of our pilots who has 25 years in January who's eligible to retire. I don't know that he will retire, but the rest of them have a minimum of 12 more years of service. And then we have some very young pilots. So as far as pilot pool, the other factors is we're competing with the airlines. Some of these guys are also fixed wing pilots. and the airlines are hungry for pilots, so they're out recruiting every day. So it's a challenge, and rotor wing pilots in Hawaii are hard to come by because there's not a lot of helicopter work for them. So that's a challenge. And again, we're fortunate. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Fire Chiefs and Mayor administration for support of the program. But we're fortunate that we have our pilots, our employees.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Florida Cordero. I had some questions for the aviation program, if Chief Thurston could remain up there, members at this time, if you're okay with me asking some of the questions. I had questions regarding, and if you could, understand that I was there during the time of the Malco fire, and I had a lot of questions. So some of my questions are geared towards the fire, but also to understand so that when we go into other parts of the communities, like Councilmember Dos Santos Tam mentioned, what can we do to help those parts of our island? But you did mention the time limits of the pilots, and so that was new to me. I learned that through your department, and especially through Chief Ha'o, who helped me understand, and yourself as well. So when the pilots have limitations, and during the Malco fire, I live in Malco, so the fire was going on 24 hours a day. What happens when you're dealing with a wildfire and then you get a call for a rescue? Because we had 2 or 3 helicopters at the time going out to the fire.
Yeah, thank you for your question. So if both the aircraft are there at the same time, obviously we'll peel one off and it'll respond to the rescue incident. That takes priority over the wildland fire. And in fact, one of the days that our pilots timed out, I tried to send them home with enough time to effect a rescue if they got called while they were returning, and that happened on one of the days. I sent a pilot back with an hour left on his duty clock, and he ended up doing a rescue at Lulumahu Falls. And then we had another pilot coming in to cover the rest of the balance of the night shift. So there was a lot of coordination going on between the pilots, and they're amazing individuals. They're highly skilled, and they're dedicated to the cause. So getting that overnight coverage was never a problem. I'd send out a text, and they responded valiantly.
Just to clarify that also, and I actually witnessed this because I got to visit one of the sites one day. When you're dealing with a wildfire, your helicopter pilots still have to go out during that time and deal with rescues. And I think it's good for is that correct?
You are correct. Thank you.
I think it's good for the public to understand, again, because my office got a lot of calls, and I want to make sure that the public understands what the department was dealing with while dealing with the brush fire. I had other questions for the helicopters. You mentioned the current span of the helicopters that we have right now and the procurement of one we're hoping to get within the next year. So, and how you mentioned how these are becoming obsolete with this technology. I'm excited that prior to my being in office, the process started to have a replacement. But what's going to happen with the current span of these 3, and how could another helicopter that you mentioned help? How will that affect your ability to rescue and the department's ability to perform its functions? Are we looking at the 3 that are in operation now becoming obsolete? And the looking forward, we're looking towards more of the dual engine. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, thank you for your question, Council Member. So the manufacture date for Air 1 was 1995. It's got 12,830 hours on the airframe. Air 2 was manufactured in 1992. It has 8,675 hours on the airframe. Air 3 was manufactured in 1994. It was recently refurbished. And Air 4 was manufactured in 1992 and is currently under refurbishment now. So to address your question, the plan is to phase out either Air 1 or Air 2 and decommission that aircraft, put the parts on the shelf for spare parts for the other aircraft. And that determination will be made based on advice from our maintenance department. And so we'll decommission at least one of them and then phase in the new aircraft. We can't take delivery and then immediately put it in service. The pilots have to go through training. The new aircraft will be equipped with a hoist, a mechanical hoist, which will take some of that human element of our rescues out of the equation and provide a mechanized means for us to bring the patients into the helicopter. The other thing is the cabin capacity of the helicopter is much greater. So instead of returning for multiple victims doing different legs, we'll be able to bring multiple patients into the aircraft at one time and then fly to the landing zone and drop them off with EMS.
Thank you. Earlier you mentioned that the issues with the current helicopters that we have is being single engine. Do we have to date any record of any incidents where that became an issue, where there was an accident or something happened where lives for your department or for someone being rescued were at risk?
Yeah, so thankfully, again, our pilots being at the level of skill that they are, we're very fortunate that we have not had an incident. But again, single engine, there is no backup, there is no redundancy in the safety systems. With a twin engine, you have redundant fuel systems, you have redundant filtering systems, you have redundancy as far as the engine itself. So it's not just the engine, but it's all those systems that support the engine. Those all would be fail-safe. We would have the flyaway capabilities to get out of there on one engine.
So no accidents that we know of. That's good to hear.
That's kind of a subject we like to stay away from, but thank you. Thank you, God. No, we have not.
And going back to the specific fire in District 8, that was, was it 9 days, 8 days around the clock?
Yeah, the fire was from October 30th to November 9th, I believe.
The majority, I think, from what I understood, the majority of it was from the helicopters doing the water drops.
Yes.
And thank you again, all those who participated to help out with our department. What would have caused the ground crews? I saw that there were some ground crews, but maybe if you could explain to the public why we went with the helicopters versus the ground crews. That's what I want my constituents to understand.
Sure. Thank you for the question. So the main reason was the topography and the lack of fire escape routes or safe zones for our personnel to retreat to if we were to put them on the ground. When the fire was in its infancy and growing, it's unpredictable. We don't know how the wind is going to interact with the terrain. We don't know how the fire is going to, if it hit an area that's more dry than the rest of the foliage, it could accelerate rapidly. So the real key there was the topography and the lack of escape routes for our personnel. So the bulk of this firefighting was done from the air.
And if it had been something that came closer to the homes, then it would have been a different plan.
Yes, absolutely. We would have deployed hand crews with hose lines. And again, going back to our strategy from the beginning, we secured that west end or the side closest to the Mauka neighborhood first. And then we moved to the area of next prioritization, which was anything of value, which led us to the conservation efforts on the east side.
Just a couple more questions.
Sure.
Every day we would get notifications from the news about the percentage of the fire that was contained. I wanted to know how that was determined and what is the status of it now. The last account I heard was 90%, but again, it went from being in the headlines every day to kind of being sidelined with other news stories. But how was that determined, and what is the status, and what is our department's involvement with the current status of the fire? Are we still involved in it, or has it completely gone to the federal wildlife organization or department?
Thank you again for your question. So the containment was determined by the aerial reconnaissance, and most of that was done by our pilots at the beginning and end of the shift. Some of it was determined by our UAS program, the pilots of the drones. So they gave us a progression of the fire and the containment levels. I believe, in looking at my calendar, our last day actually was on the 7th, where, and I don't know if Chief Costilla can speak to the official transfer date, but that was when our aerial assets pulled out. I think the Hawaii Guard flew one more day. So again, determined by the pilots doing an aerial reconnaissance in our UAS system. I'm sorry, did I answer your question in its entirety?
I believe so. And so right now, HFD is not taking any kind of role in
We have no role there.
Okay. Last question, and I'll turn it back to my colleagues if there's any remainder from the members. But how can we as a council, my colleagues have mentioned budget coming up. So what can we do as a council to make sure that we're supporting the department through budget or resources? I think it was really good for Councilmember Tupola to point out that we need to know, the more information that we receive, the better we can provide you with the resources that you guys need to make sure that our communities are safe. So what can we as a council do to support the department?
So again, I have to thank you for your support, those of your predecessors, the support of them, prior administrations and fire chiefs. I think going forward, the acquisition of a twin-engine helicopter is going to be a big step forward. That's going to provide the capacity, the support that we need to broaden our mission scope and more effectively fight wildland fires. With every aviation program, the aircraft have inspection phases, so they go down for different intervals, and that duration of time is unknown. It depends on what they find in the inspection. So in order to maintain that continuous twin-engine service, we're going to need a second aircraft. And again, these all being manufactured in the 90s, they do need to be phased out. They're at the end of their service life. So while we're grateful for this first twin engine, the focus really should be how do we acquire that second one? We've been looking to other funding sources. Representative Case's office with the Maui wildland fires. We have an incredible grant manager. We've been looking to all sorts of funding sources for that, but we really need acquisition of the second twin.
Thank you, Chief Thurston.
Thank you.
Members, do we have any other questions? No. Chief Costilla, you had any other, no questions?
No, just to follow up on your question on how the city could assist HFD with these type of incidents. So outside of an emergency proclamation, like there's the funding for RFAs or requests for assistance, is the agency's got to come up with the money somehow. So if there's no emergency proclamation, then we're basically paying for service. So that's a consideration that the city may want to look at. Like if we get into a situation where there's an emergency proclamation and we request assistance from a hotshot team or a Chinook from the Air Guard, how does the department or the city fund that or pay for that? So that's something to discuss. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that and informing us of that. Thank you. Okay. Seeing no other further questions, we'll now proceed with in-person testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any registered or non-registered testifiers for this item?
Chair, no registered, but I see one at the podium.
Aloha. If you could come to the microphone and state your name, and then you can proceed with your testimony.
James C. Manaku Sr., concerned parent, grandparent, great-grandparent. Madam Chair, I really would like to support our fire department because we have many, more than wildfires in our brush. We have homes that are wildfires. And we can see that Maui is an example. And we just had one this weekend in Waianae, and it just brought it to our attention. You know, we've been having a lot of our developments in our islands. And Waianae has one of them, in Makaha in particular. And it just brought it to our attention. We had a fire in Kili, it's called Kili Drive in Makaha. And right besides Kili Drive, we have this development that is so dense that it would have been another Lahaina. So what we need,
if you could
yes,
wrap up your testimony.
I know, Madam
Thank
Chair,
you.
but it's so important that we start addressing all of these developments that are so tightly together that one match would have destroyed the whole development. So we need to start addressing this because it's, you know, it's a problem for our fire department because, young lady, when you build too close to each other, the whole development goes up.
Thank you so much. That's a great point. I appreciate you. And I know that as we work on...
I hope we can address that problem because it's a problem for them too, as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I think that's a great point. As we work on, as a council, how we can address the housing issue, we need to be able to be smart in our development so that we can make sure that our public safety...
Yeah, thank you. Because, you know, it's frightening when you look at a fire and then you notice that the whole community can be destroyed.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Clerk, is there any other in-person testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Okay. Oh, in person. Yes, if you could come to this side of the, correct. And if you could state your name, there's an on-off button. Thank you so much, sir. Do we have any questions for the testifier, the previous testifier? Okay. Aloha and good morning. There's an on-off button, right? Well, welcome.
So aloha, Chairman. Vice Chairman,
He's absent today.
you tell him Manny said, I'm disappointed that he's not here, okay? So my name's Manuel Kulaloyo, born and raised on the island of Maui. I currently live here on Oahu. And I want to attest those two gentlemen, Chief Gaspar, Chief, I'm going to call you Uncle Bob. I seen them work very hard. I was raised with helicopters on Maui. Val, Mr. Polo, how are you? I emailed you guys. I wanted to talk. You're the chairman, Democratic Party, Red Hill. You need to support your Honolulu Fire Department. You know why? As we speak, our president is hosting an APEC in San Francisco, right? We hosted an APEC here, remember? If we want to be like a world class, like how we were when we hosted APEC for our former POTUS, my best friend was Lionel Kamara. He probably going to hate me for saying this, but you're absolutely correct, Mr. Thurston. You were the air boss, and I heard everything that happened on that Tuesday. And the only reason I went up there, sir, is because when I walked out of my office at Bravo Piers, Pearl Harbor, and I looked and I saw that smoke, Mr. Pola, I looked at that smoke. Let me go a little bit, please. Indulge me, four of you.
Oh, sure.
I texted Haima. I was a former from 9/11 to APEC. I was their advisor. I go, where is this smoke coming from? Is it the KTR? What does KTR mean? You know what KTR means? The Kahuku Training Range. Or is it the Department of Interior Lands? I want to know who's the landowner. And when I wasn't, nobody answered me, Chairman Okamoto. I went up to the captain's mast and I looked across and I did my own triangulation. And I called my friends in the helicopter business who were up there. I have children that go to a public school. If any of you watched the inversion in the morning, where you live, Hawaii Kai, Diamond Head, you look this way, every morning the smoke was, you could smell them. I know girls opposite the island could smell them. If you ever been to Core Ridge, Sweater, why am I going to listen to the Department of Health? Kanoelani School, they had to cancel their Halloween in the morning, 9 o'clock, because the smell was too bad. In fact, I went somebody bring me some air purifiers from Maui, so my family in Nanakuli, ma'am, Hawaiian Homes, lived by Royal Kunia, and me in Waipio could breathe. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, no, ma'am, Saturday, and you, right, air boss, I love you. He's the main guy. He's the main guy on Oahu. You know why? Because if never rain, Saturday morning at 2 o'clock, Monday at 9:30 in the morning, and Tuesday again at 10, and that bugger get covered with ua, this wouldn't happen. But you know what the lessons learned, Chairman? Well, what is your district, Ms. Okimoto?
Actually, I live in the district. I was right there. I'm in
So
Mililani-Maka.
you should be concerned.
Yeah, that's why
because
we're
my
having this
best
hearing
friend-
today.
My best friend, a pharmacist, lived in Mililani, and that's why I went to Mililani, because she lived right by the 80-foot trees. And if that bugger went buckaloose, like how it could have buckaloose, the question that the fire department asked is, not only do you need to support their twin engine and maintenance, it should be increased. I know, because I used to go next to Tom Hopman's hangar, next to you guys' hangar at the heliport. Howard Estabrook, my best friend. I grew up with Uncle Tom, Eric Pacheco. So why is this important, Val? If you guys are just hearing today of what you guys heard, I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned. Because how many of you have been to Lahaina? Pardon, you been to Lahaina? you need to go. I'll pay for your way. You been to Lahaina? You been to Lahaina? In the impact zone? It hurts. Because when the number 2 from your OCD says, oh, don't worry, Maui, they don't know what they're doing. Well, ma'am, you had your Lahaina. Could have happened to you if other things never work out. But what they're saying is about there's no statewide helicopter function. I want you to think about this, okay? Here we go. There's a place called Two Bears in Montana. There's a they call it a whitefish philanthropist. And he pays for these helicopters. You know why? Because nobody in the Honolulu Fire Department, I can tell you all the bad stories about Maui Fire Department if you want, Ms. Okimoto, because it's like, I'm sorry, I don't have money to go pay Uncle Tom Hopman $10,000 for his Huey. What I'm saying,
just to be fair, I'd just like to respect everyone, so if you could
what I'm saying
testimony,
is,
thank you.
it's very important to what they said, because this thing could have gone like that. And that's the only reason why I went there Tuesday and I bought hamburgers. Yeah, I bought you hamburgers, right? For Pilot Josh and the guy that came off, he's number 2. We were talking. Yeah, you got the greats, Tom Hopman, Eric Pacheco, Kahikili Ka'a'a, right? Josh, right? There's no Tom Hopman anymore. So now you got Windward Aviation and Uncle Cal Dorn, right? That's all you got. We need to be having on the side helicopters that can help drop not 80 to 100 gallons, 280 with the double twin. Ma'am, you need to have them on reserve, so no more pressure on them, because we do this all the time in the mainland. That's the lessons learned from Lahaina. And if we never learn, shame on us.
Thank you
Val,
so much.
Val,
Yes.
that's your home now, okay?
It
Val,
is. Thank you.
the baga is still 90%, right, Val? It ain't 100%.
That's the last number I heard, correct.
Okay.
Members, do we have any questions for our testifier? Seeing none. Okay. Thank you so much for testifying. I appreciate that. Madam Clerk, do we have any? Oh, sir, if you could come back and we'll get his name. Madam Clerk, do we have any registered or non-registered testifiers for this item remotely?
No registered, but I see Angela Young.
Oh, aloha, Angela. Please unmute and state your name for the record.
Aloha, Chair and City Council. Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of Kapalama NSW and strong support. And just want to show gratitude to the coordinated response of the emergency teams. I never knew the sort of coordination, boats, helicopters, they need special pilots to respond to hazards. So as I reflect on the critical response of the emergency management teams, especially with the second major fire, I'll never know what it's like to go out there and to fight fire and have to fight for the lives of our communities and districts. So I think we should all just be really grateful. And what we do in our office jobs just doesn't compare. And so thank you so much to the fire team, and your work shows such a united front from the emergency management crew, from the distribution of supplies, equipment, to coordinating the efforts at the ground level and the community, and with the community leaders. Yeah, so also the answer to the testing of the air quality is something Environmental Protection Agency can answer with the measurement of a fine particulate matter, which was discussed in Senate Bill 788 with vegetative burning. There's a connection between protection of environment and public health and significant health threats of commercial burning resulting from inhaling fine particulate matter.
Mahalo, Angela. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, Angela. Members, do we have any questions for the testifier online? Oh, seeing that. Oh, okay. Chief Thurston, you have a question for the testifier?
No, I wanted to speak to Manny's point.
Okay.
And
let me just finish the testifier, and then we can have you speak to what the previous testifier, if that's okay. No questions for Angela? Okay. Okay, go ahead, Chief Thurston.
Yeah, I apologize. I wanted to thank Manny. He was very supportive, brought us food. Other members of the community brought us food. We took over the park for a period of a couple of days. There were football teams that missed practice. So thank you, Manny. Thank you to all the members of the community who brought us food. And, we're very fortunate. We have pretty much unwavering support from the community, and we're thankful for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Thurston, and mahalo to the public once again. Members, we are in discussion? Any further questions or discussion? Before we close the hearing, I would just like to close this by having final words. You know, the purpose of this hearing really was to get the department to come here. This fire was close to home. It was pretty much in my backyard. And so everything that everybody's discussing, I know that I have a little bit biased opinion of it, but I know that the fires are not just only in Mililani. We had a fire in Waianae just a few days ago, and during the Mililani fire, there was also one in Haleiwa. I know there was one in Wahiawa. So all of our districts are being impacted by this, and I know that since the Maui fires, this is something that's at the top of everybody's minds. I wanted to thank the department. I was able to go and visit. Living there, my daughters go to the schools there, and I know that the department was there 24/7 pretty much. I want to thank you guys. I think my purpose of this really was to get the information out because our office receives so many calls, messages. I receive messages again. Everybody has opinions of what should be happening and what they feel is the right response. But I wanted the HFD to come and express with us what they did, as well as if there's areas that we need to improve on in responses in communicating what happened during the wildfire. And I appreciate Manny who came and passionately testified. I want you to know that Maui is never far from our minds. All of us have family and friends there. We still till today, that's why we do these things, and we're willing to support each other, whether we're here or in a different part of another county, a different island. But moving forward, I really hope that we can work with the department. I think it's important for us to realize their limitations, but also what we have jurisdiction over. And I think if we have any other questions for public safety regarding fires, which is with the red flag alerts and all the things that are happening, I want to make sure that we are getting the information out to the public. So mahalo to the department. Thank you for being here. I appreciate all that you guys are doing in keeping our community safe. I hope the public understands that while you're fighting fires, you're also dealing with other rescues, and that's something that I think wasn't at the top of people's minds during the Mauka fire. Seeing no other questions or discussions, this brings us to the end of our agenda. Mahalo again, everyone, for being here and for your participation. We are at this time at 10:41. This meeting is adjourned.